package with lawmakers trying to add their own pet projects in at the last minute.
Will the bill end up too loaded down with pork to stimulate the economy at all? They keep adding like little bricks of money. Let's talk to our Fox panel about it. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? Do you think that this is going to come to fruition really soon? Like the president has said, I want it done in a timely fashion.
I've looked at the bill, and it's a $205 billion bill, and I've discovered there's $205 billion worth of pork in this bill. It's the stupidest thing. Now, if you want to change the economy really fast, cut taxes, cut some of the spending out of our budget. There's tons and tons of quote-unquote discretionary spending on.
What about people who don't pay taxes?
There's so much junk in our tax code that they get rid of. If they wanted just to stimulate this economy, all you have to do is cut the tax rates and cut the spending, and you'll see this economy go crazy.
I mean, I pose the question, what about people who don't pay taxes, who are at the lower end of the income scale, who are really hurting right now, who maybe are going to lose their homes, whatever, maybe losing their jobs, unemployment is climbing up. I mean, don't you want to help those people? I mean, people who are high earners.
Yes, if you cut.
Look, it gets back to this trickle-down approach, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. It worked in the past, but it takes time, this trickle-down, to flow down into everybody. I don't, what we're trying to do here, at least from what I understand, is get a quick stimulus into the economy to stave off a recession. The Fed's doing its part. We're trying to get this stimulus in here now. So I don't know if you go with these big, grand tax cut schemes and expect that's going to have an immediate impact.
But, Peter, it's called a stimulus package, not a welfare package. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with welfare, but it's not a welfare package. It's a stimulus package.
But, Dave, you got to look at what we're going to stimulate. We're going to stimulate inflation. We're going to stimulate the budget deficit. We're going to stimulate the trade deficit. We're not going to stimulate the economy. We're going to make the economy worse. I mean, yes, Tom is right about one thing. If we want meaningful stimulus, which is not what politicians want, they want re-election, we got to suck it up. We got to suffer through this recession. But what we need is to make government smaller. We need meaningful spending reductions, meaningful reforms and reduction in our taxes, so that we can dig our way out of this gigantic hole. That's what we need to do.
Right. David, you have it exactly right. And I have been in favor of this stimulus bill all along. I've been in a minority, but they are turning it from an economic stimulus bill into a welfare bill. And it's we also have the President of the United States who said, "You start fooling around and do this stuff, guys, I'm going to veto it." So we don't even know whether it's going to come through.
Hey, Pat, one person's welfare is another person's income or revenue. If you run a small business and you don't have any customers because they don't have any money anymore, you're in trouble too. But if suddenly you have customers coming back,
one at a time.
There's a fundamental flaw here in the argument, Michael, and that is this: that if you just give people something for nothing, you don't reward them. If you cut taxes and you cut spending, that creates a better business environment, which creates hiring more people to work, which worked just fine for the past 5 years.
Peter made an interesting comment earlier. You kind of slipped through, but you said that if they pass this stimulus bill, then we might even need yet another one later on, right before the election. What gives you the sense that would happen?
We're not going to need one.
You know what I mean, that it might happen.
But they're going to do it because the recession is going to come regardless of this package. In fact, the package might even make it worse by exacerbating our imbalances.
And
so they're going to have to probably come up with a bigger stimulus package. And these politicians are going to jump, they're going to compete with one another. Who can give out the most goodies? That's how they're trying to get reelected.
We tried,
one at a time, Mike.
We tried Peter's approach. It was called the 1930s. It didn't work, okay? And that's when we figured out that we have a better way. It's a counter-cyclical fiscal policy. When the economy, when the markets go down, the government
throw out those
Keynesian raises spending. Hey, since the Keynesian approach, we haven't had depressions in the world anymore. In fact, the only bad downturn we ever had was, again, with this Volcker raising rates up to 21%.
Hold on, Tom.
You keep rewriting history. You better learn from it.
Tom.
You two kids, stop it now. Let me rewrite a little history now. What you need to do is you have to create good economic policy at the very core. Good economic policies always create a better economy, which hires more people, which creates more income. That's why a welfare stimulus package like this is silly. It's better to create better long-term economic policy.
Patricia has an interesting approach. She doesn't rewrite history. She reads it. Go ahead.
And, quite frankly, a stimulus package does work because what we're concerned about is two-thirds of the economy is driven by consumers. If the consumers pull back in here, we could tip into a recession that we're not yet in, guys. There's no numbers to support report that we're there yet. So
Sure.
not yet.
Well,
So
consumers have to pull back. That's the point.
We're trying to head it off a little bit. If you go crazy in here, which is really what's happening in Washington, you can do more harm than good, and that pushes me a little bit more into the camp over
But
here.
remember, consumers have to pull back. That's the problem. We've spent too much. We've borrowed too much. We have to stop. We have to save. We have to underconsume.
Yeah, Peter's right on this, but here's the thing. Yes, he is.
He's not right.
He is on this.
According to Tommy, let's hear why.
If you create more net income,
You guys
it's
all
not
married.
so much of an issue. And that's what we did for 5 straight years. We had 10% annual net income growth, which fueled this incredibly great economy. It was real growth. What happened was as soon as we had the subprime mess, which is caused by raising rates too much too fast, then we had ourselves almost to a recession where the economy ground to a halt.
Mike, go ahead.
That's not what caused the
Adam
subprime
Smith,
problem.
the great economist, I'm sure even Peter loves Adam Smith, said the wealth of a nation depends on the availability and the cheapness of its consumables. It's indeed how we raise our standard of living. There's nothing wrong with consumption.
No.
You seem to
Mike,
think
we
that,
have to produce the goods first.
Why?
Sure. That's what
Do you produce the electricity that goes into your home? Do you produce
No,
the
but
food
somebody does.
that you buy from the supermarket? Do you
Somebody
make the
produces
clothes?
it.
Wait a second.
Mike, a
Do you
farmer
make the clothes
produces
that
it.
you wear? Do you provide the medical services that you need? Do you provide the
Mike,
legal
okay,
services?
that's enough questions.
Somebody produces them. That's the
You
point.
need to create the income in the first place to buy the stuff. You could have cheap goods, but if there's no income to buy it, you're not getting anything done. That's why you need to create more income.
Individuals have to save. Individuals have to control
Supply
their debt.
creates
the
its own
government
demand.
does not have to do it. The reason we have to live differently than our government is we have a terminal point to our economic activity. We're going to retire at some point.
Remember,
all right?
supply creates
the
its own
government is
demand.
never going to retire. So the government does not have to have a terminal point to its economic activity. The deficit can go on forever.
Exactly.
Mike has it right.
All right, that's it.
He
We got
never
the
has it
final
right.
word from Patricia, and a new alliance is formed. But tomorrow is another day. Who knows? Every day it's different.
Oh, well, while you were talking, guys, the market is down, and you see with the Dow Jones Industrial, I said NASCAR.